Hey, it's Karina Reichman, and you are listening to Comes a Time with Oteil Burbridge and Mike Fenoya. If you're digging the podcast, do these guys a favor and review and subscribe. It means a lot. Be sure to follow the pod on social media, YouTube, and if you're joining for bonus episodes and exclusive content, go to patreon.com/comesatimepod and get on the bus. And now, here's Mike and Oteil.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Comes a Time podcast. That's Oteil.
And that's Mike. What another good one, huh? We had the amazing Kanika Moore on from Doom Flamingo Talk. She's been out there hitting the jam band scene hard. And I love when I looked up her little bio. It said artist, singer, songwriter, and stylist, which she certainly has got style. She is really, really something.
Amazing talk. And please watch till the end, everyone. Please watch till the end. This one gets just better and better as it goes, and she's incredible. I love Doom Flamingo. They're great, and she's just like forced to watch. Yeah. You guys all listening and watching after or before you check this out, go on a little wormhole of Kanika and her live performances and stuff. It's like a real sight to be seen. She's leaves it all on stage.
Yeah, you can watch
super
her with
cool.
the sound down, and you will just have to turn it up because you're like,
she's super cool.
I got to hear what's going on right there.
Yeah.
So much joy and beauty and everything good.
Yeah, she's amazing. So thank you, Kanika, for joining us. That was really huge. And I'm sure it's going to help a ton of people. And thanks, everyone, for listening. And subscribe and rate and review if you're having a good time. And go over to the Patreon, patreon.com/comesatimepod, and join us for extra. Thank you so much. Catch you guys next time.
Peace and love. I'm so psyched to have you on, man. I haven't seen you since I was at the Poorhouse.
Since Poorhouse. Yep.
And you joined us.
That was a lot of fun. Yeah. Thanks for that.
You tore it up that night. I was like, wow. Okay. And you wanted to do Allman Brothers. I was like, really? Okay. All right, let's go.
Yeah. I've got a big list of songs that, like, some of them I'll just learn, try to learn all the words, and like eventually somebody's going to be like, oh yeah, let's do that one.
Smart.
Like, get ready for the moment.
Well,
Smart.
That is the scene we're in seems to open itself up to that, right? Like you really don't know what collaborations and covers might happen like spontaneously at any moment. That's a hard thing for musicians and in this scene is you kind of have to be like a encyclopedia of anything at any time.
It's true. Yeah. Especially with, how much I move around. I play with a lot of different people. So like it changes every scene I go to. I'm like, all right, what are we doing today?
Yeah.
Open that part of the brain up.
I would like to thank you personally real quick for, and it's so silly. I'm in this thing called Music League, which is basically like a weekly game, a fantasy game where we get a theme each week and we have to pick songs and we make a playlist and the songs that get the most votes win. And it's this amazing music nerd game and we have so much fun playing it. But this 2 weeks ago, the theme was they're remaking Scarface and what would the soundtrack be? And I picked And Ready to Mingle from Doom Flamingo. And I killed it. I got so many points. So, and everyone was like, yo, I love this band. Who is this? So thank you. And you helped me do well in that round.
Hey,
but
thank you for the plug. That's awesome.
Oh man, I love Doom Flamingo. It's just so much fun. You guys
and
are
Ready to Mingle. Nice.
That might be my favorite song on that track.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm walking around singing it with my dog all day. So you are if they were to remake Scarface, Miami driving music, Doom Flamingo, I think would be perfect for it.
Yeah, that's fitting. I like that one.
Out of those bands, which was the first one? Was it that you were in? Like the Motown one, Talk, or Doom?
Motown.
The Motown one.
Motown was first. Mike Quinn put that together, and I mean it's like right down the street, so it was fitting to like play on the deck. And this is before they like started doing the mural contests where they paint on the outside on the deck. It was before it was enclosed. It was when like they had these old awful speakers they've since then fixed.
I
But like,
remember the. Yeah, and we're
oh my
talking about the
gosh.
poorhouse now for people that don't
Yes.
know.
They had those little
Yes.
raggedy mics. We dropped them like 47 times. Like, I'm still singing this. And then they had that rug still there. It's like there's so much liquid in that thing. But like yeah. But before they started painting, the only thing that was there was the Jimi Hendrix painting that
Yes.
was there. And then that was it. But you remember.
I do. I was
But yeah,
back in the
Dave
day.
Graham and Stu and Corey Stevens, who would play out on the deck even when it rained, and people would sit
Hmm.
under the little hangover that's like right in
Yeah,
front of the stage.
Yeah, the awning. Yeah.
Yeah.
that's great. And what was what came next? Was it Doom or Talk?
It was Doom and then Talk. Like I was with Doom at Halloween.
Ah,
And they were doing like a tribute. Like they just did a lot of Halloween music, and Talk was playing, and I was like, man, they're amazing. I was like, there's no singer on that stage. Maybe maybe they'll work with me. And like I had introduced myself to them a couple of times before, but just like that set, the way that they put it together, and I knew they had just gotten off of a run, so like I knew that it was hard work for them, and it sounded amazing. It was clean. It didn't seem like they put their work in, and I was like, I want to work with people like that are pushing themselves, so they push me. And then we played a festival. We were at the same festival with Doom, and they asked me to sit in, and we did a couple of tunes. And then they flew me out to work inside of the studio in Long Island. Um,
nice.
and we were there. I was there for 6 days, and we wrote like 6 songs, like just really quick.
Nice.
So yeah, but Doom was first. Ryan had just moved into town, and he was asking for that Humphreys was supposed to play here at Patriots Point, and they were looking for a band. And instead of finding a band, Ryan's like, "I'm gonna build one."
He's
So
the
he
And
lives
best.
in Charleston.
yeah, yeah,
He moved there.
Cool.
Yeah.
yeah. He's in charge. So when he moved here, he was like, he wants to put a band together, and we rehearsed on the main stage at Poorhouse. Our first couple of like get-togethers were like right on that stage. Alex opened the door and let us sit on the main stage
Yeah.
and write the first 3 songs on that
Wow.
stage. And then we went inside of the studio and recorded it. It was good. And then I just saw like everybody started busting out their phones and capturing it. And I was like, this is gonna be big. This is gonna be good. This is gonna be a good
Mm.
one.
I love it.
It's
It's like
But
wrestling like that because one of the things I love about you is how much you just like you just created a storm at home in Charleston and you just are like working and it spreads out and it's like a professional wrestling to me. It's like when the people put their cameras out or when they make a sign or something, it's like you go, this is hitting. It's hitting
yeah,
people, and you're like when Cody Rhodes left WWE and went on all the indies and just started a fire. And then he came back, and he just captured the heavyweight belt a couple nights ago. So I love watching that happen. I love watching you when you sat in. I mean, I was familiar with you, but when you sat in, I was just like, whoa, you're just a force. Even if you're off stage, like I'm sure people, if you walk in a grocery store, they'd be like, who's that? You know what I mean? You just have whatever that thing is, but then you took it, you just like work it. How did that come about? Like how did you start, and where did you? How recent was it that you were just like, all right, I'm putting the pedal to the metal?
Well, I would say it came from like church.
Mm.
My aunt was an evangelist, and my great
Mm.
grandfather was a pastor of a church that I grew up in. And not only did they force you to sing as soon as they heard one note from you, but just watching the women in that church, my auntie Lonnie, like she was the evangelist. She was the one I feel like where that energy really came from.
Mm.
She, the way that she would pull people, like she could just see straight through them, and she would minister through song, and then she'd start talking to them. They're like, "That's it, that's it." Yeah, like, but she was really good at that. Her energy, and I feel like a lot of times when I watch videos, I think of that. I think of my mom. I think of my aunt. I think of my great grandma. Like just when they grabbed a mic or when they got ready to say something, people were already like, What's she gonna do? What are you gonna do? Like, what
Yeah,
are you gonna
yeah.
do? I'm into it. Like, what are you doing?" And that's where it came from. My grandma played the organ, and she would go to different churches like when she got older, and she would take me with her, and then eventually I started driving her to all of these churches when she would play on Sunday, and she would get me to sing. But back then I wasn't really singing. There were a lot of really good vocalists in the church that I was going to, so I was
Yeah.
not trying to compete with that. I was in the choir in the soprano section, all the way in the back, just like, I don't want to compete with anything that's going on. And then finally, my grandma would have me sing at these churches, and no one knew me there, so it was a little bit easier. And she, come here, baby, sing this song,
Yeah.
sing God Is, or sing this, and I would. And so at her funeral, I sang because she would have wanted me to do that, and so I sang. And then that's when I saw, the way that people looked at my auntie. They were looking at me like that when I was
Mm,
singing. Um, and then I
wow.
was like, there's something there. Um,
How
so
old how old were you when that happened?
I was 18.
Good
Nice.
timing.
Yeah.
I was 18. 19. I was 19.
Still good
Um,
timing.
yeah, yeah.
And how long did
But
it take you from there to like go, I'm gonna lean into it? Because you're clearly leaning in so hard. You know, what was that? When
it,
did that decision happen?
I went to school to be like for surgical tech. And the class, like one of my classes wasn't available because I'm late to everything. And I missed the sign up for one of my classes, and then I ended up taking this theater class. And long story short, they asked us to write this short musical. And when I noticed like the way that people responded to what I did there, that's when I started to lean in. That's when I
Mm.
was like, I don't want to be a surgical tech. I want to
Yeah.
do something else. And so I started to lightly pursue it. And and then I moved back to Charleston, and then there was the stage, there were the musicians. Like, until this point in my life, I've always needed the atmosphere to be set for me before I'm like, okay, all right, I'll come in here like this. So like I was waiting for, I was, I'm waiting for the setup. I feel like I've done that a lot. Like, okay, it looks good in here. Like I'm ready to perform and sing and like talk to these people, and like especially small stages are like a
Mm-hmm.
thing, because I feel like I'm talking to these people individually, like,
Yeah, yeah.
one-on-one time. So
I can,
yeah,
yeah.
it just grew over time. It took some time. I doubt myself sometimes, like everybody does. But when I get on that stage, mistakes are to be made. It's
Nice.
okay. Whatever I do up there, like I'm putting it out, and I'm okay with my product once the night is complete. I might give myself a couple of pointers at the end of the night, like how can I make it
Yeah.
better next time? But in that
Well, no,
moment on the stage, I just kind of let it out.
yeah, nobody likes perfect, right? I mean, that's where the growth happens, you know?
Yeah, that's what live music is. They don't want
That's
to
what
listen to
life
the
is.
album; they want to see it. Like,
Yep.
I tell my kids, if you can't make mistakes, you can't make anything. I saw that somewhere. And I was like, man, I'm gonna like brand that on one of the walls here,
yeah,
because you
I
just
love
have
that.
to have that permission. You have to give yourself permission to do that. But I really feel what you were saying, like if the setup is right, because I know when I was doing acting, like so much happens, like if you're, especially if you're doing a period thing. So if you like put on Western clothes and a cowboy hat and boots and stuff or whatever, if you're like, you know, whatever the costume is, like if it's set up, it's so much easier to get in character. It just it just all comes
It's
together.
true.
So what
Yeah,
you were saying about like when the stage is set, like when everyone is like, all right, now I'm ready to go on, and then you kind of, it's like a phone booth for Clark Kent, you know?
yeah, yeah. Transformation Station. Yeah, I don't know what I said.
One of the things I love too is your face paint, because I started to lean in. I was like, come on, man, let's have fun. It's never too late to have a happy childhood. You're on a big stage. Like, let's have fun. And I
Hmm.
saw your face paint and I was like, oh, man, that's speaking my language right there.
You know, girls wear makeup all the time, and like yeah, I love doing that. That's great. It's nice. It gives me something. I don't know. It's kind of like a like me time in front of the mirror. It's just like, yeah, okay, we're just drawing on the face and like thinking about things, just like meditation almost.
Yeah. Yeah.
But like I've always been a little quirky and always wanted to do something outside of the norm. Like I'll see things sitting on my shelf and I'm like, I wonder what would happen if I just like glued that to the side of my head. See
So
what
Colonel
happens.
Bruce.
Yeah.
I love it. Oh,
And
I
so
love
it
it.
just like just telling a story. I'll think of like what inspires me that day, and then I'll just put beads all over my face. Just the meditation, just like something else other than just concealer, and then just making everything look plain. I wanted
Yeah.
to add some color,
You
some
want to
texture to it.
pop.
Yeah. Ha.
Well, I love that you put in your bio, it says artist, singer, songwriter, stylist. Is that just naturally come out of you, or did you have some inspiration from that in family, or is that just you? Because you have such a look, and people forget about that. Like you can play great, but when I like dress up, I get so much more. Oh my god, it's
Mm-hmm.
crazy. I wear that wizard's robe, and man,
Yes.
just people are still going on about it. That when I did the face paint, and it took me a really long time to get that, like my 50s. And you just are so, it's clearly intentional about it and good at it. Like, did that come from the theater thing, or where did that come from?
I just I would say like in church there wasn't a lot of that going on. Everybody was just like,
Yeah.
cover everything up and come sit down, and I wanted to like express who I was as I was growing up, and like I felt like in a weird way I was kind of hiding behind the clothes, which is
Yeah.
not that's not happening because it brings more attention. Like I was like, maybe I won't have to talk to them if I show them,
Yeah.
you know, here's my personality. I'm wearing it.
Yeah.
Don't talk to me.
Talk
I don't
without words. Yeah.
Yeah, I talk without words. I don't know. I look around at stuff and I like it, and I'm like, how can I make that a part of what I do? I don't really know if there's anyone that really inspired me to do that. I'm sure over time there's a couple of people that I looked at, like, I don't know, Erica Badu. I love
Yeah.
how edgy she is with everything. I was like, man,
Janelle
I love
Monae
all
is
of them.
very visual in that way too, I
Yes.
feel. Yeah, she's
Yeah.
amazing.
I agree. Yeah, I like the color, I like the texture, I like to change it up. Sometimes I like to like wear less clothing, and then sometimes I like to wear like just something ridiculous. Big robes, and the only thing I can't really mess with is hats because, you know,
Yeah.
it's not gonna
You should
happen.
you should put a little bitty one up there, you know, like
I'm gonna do it. It's like a
Like a
little
little tiny hat.
yeah.
That's great.
Remember Men on Film on
Yeah, in living color.
in Living
Hated it.
Color,
Oh my God,
and they would
hated
have
Hated
it.
the
Oh
it.
my,
Blaine and Antoine, and they would have those little hats.
yes.
You know what I was thinking about as you said it? That whole, and I wonder how many people stay the surgical technician route out
Hmm.
of not knowing there's another route. I started stand up when I was 29, 28, and I didn't know that was an option. I thought stand up comedians came from another planet or something. I didn't know how you don't major in, following your dream. You kind of
Yeah.
stumble into it after catastrophe or whatever. And then you do it and you're like, oh my God, like this is an existence I didn't know. So I guess I wanted to ask you, like, was the surgical tech thing like a path that you just kind of thought like it could have been that, it could have been hairdresser, it could have been anything, or was it
Yeah,
just
well,
sort of a path that you kind of like safest route, sort of
money.
money?
I was
Yeah,
like money, and I liked helping people, and the human body fascinated me, just the way that it works and
yeah,
how it heals itself, and the fact that we can like go in there and fix things and just stitch it
yeah,
back up. That was really cool to me. And I didn't really process the idea. I didn't really understand the idea that I could make money, you know, singing, that I could pay my bills, that I could take care of things, and then like, and also be fed, spiritually. Like,
help people too.
yeah, I didn't think of it as a thing because, like, when I thought of music, I thought of church, and I thought of, giving yourself there and like singing and showing up to rehearsals, and then just like, now I got to go to work.
Right.
Thinking that those were two different things. So when I realized that I could, that it could be possible that I could do this full time, that's when,
It's an amazing realization, right? Like it's almost like it finds you. It's not that you find it, right?
man,
Like,
I wish I could have told teenage KK,
Hmm.
just,
yeah, me
come on,
too.
girl. Like,
Me too. I remember being like in job after job after job just because I thought that was life. Like grow up, go to school, get married, have a family, get jobs, work, retire, be miserable. That was like the
yeah,
path. That was life.
yeah, check into the system. Yeah,
Midlife crisis. Have a good midlife crisis.
Yeah, buy a Jeep or something, like take up surfing too late. And then I guess the thing that like once it happens, like you said, like being able, although I do think that if 19-year-old me or 17 or 25-year-old me started doing stand up, I don't know if I would have made it. I think I needed that kind of like 20s to sort of like, like figure out how to maintain because living I think there's a science to living the way we live on the road, constantly creating, having that kind of like line behind us of like folks that are doing our art and it keeps you motivated and keeps you moving forward. You're like a chameleon, you're versatile. You're in so many different projects. That's so unique, you know? An 18-year-old may not have, you know what I mean? Someone may not have figured that out by then.
yeah, I didn't know enough music back then to even like, I don't know, up until I was 17, 18, I was only listening to like gospel, R&B, and then my dad would have like Sade and like a couple of vinyls that I, steal every now and then. But yeah, I don't think I honestly think I would have bombed it. Like, I'm not sure if I was ready. I think the timing was perfect
Yeah.
for me to live life and to work all these other things out, and realized that, they weren't the path for me, but they kind of prepared me for this. Yeah, I
Yeah.
needed to go through all of that.
Yeah, you need some experience, and that's a lot of my. It's not a criticism. It's just an observation where I hear really young musicians, and some of them are incredibly gifted, and hopefully they haven't lived long enough to have any like really deep trauma. It's like, well, their dog dies, or something really bad happens to it, then that emotional part will come out. That why is this doing that? That I feel it's like, I don't want to say missing in a bad way, but it's just not there yet, And so it does take some experience. Like plants just bloom when they bloom. But what was it like for you, like adjusting to the road? Because the road is not, that stuff is not normal. It's not. It'll just
It's
eat
not.
you up,
Even more so, I love being on the road. Like I just, the hard part is coming back home and functioning like a normal human being. Just like
Yep.
going on the road, I'm like, all right, I got one job,
Yeah.
music. Talk to the people and music, like
Yeah.
just
Well,
minister.
most musicians don't do that. They're like, I have 3 jobs: music, women, chasing drugs, and the Baha'i. You know what I mean? Like they're not. That's a very, very mature. Uh, and those other things make the road harder because hangovers don't make it easier. Whatever the drug thing cumulatively, it's not called a hangover, but it is. It's just a different kind of hangover. Like that doesn't make it easier, and all the other things make it so much harder. And then a lot of times it'll kill you. So I mean,
Sleeping at a bandwagon hungover, you do that one time, and I feel like most people get it. I'm like, don't do that again. I got it.
Man, nobody I've known. I guess the 70s,
Really?
they just roll it over. Maybe they never went to sleep.
Man, it took me like one time for that to happen, and I was like, I will never do that again because there's other things that happen like when you're hungover. Like my eyes right here, they'll just start watering for like 7 hours straight. So
Oh,
not only am I
man.
already dehydrated, it's
You're
just like the rest
crying
of
now.
it is just crying out of my. And then I gotta get dressed for the next show. I'm just like, I can't get like it's too much. No. I love music more than I love any of those things. So whenever they start to get in the way, they get the boot. Like
Yeah,
real quick.
That's maturity, I think, too,
that's
because
wisdom.
I remember I record all my sets when I do stand up, and I remember early on listening to a set when I was drinking a lot before the show, and you could hear the dryness in my mouth, and I couldn't even like stomach listening to it, and I knew that it was from drinking, and I'm like, I got to cut that out. I have to cut that out because it got in the way of performance.
My vibrato. So if I get drunk, my vibrato's gone. I just can't. I can't do that. I just like it starts to fade. It's like uh-oh. So those are some of the indicators, and like I don't know. I mute like if I can't sing the way that I want to, if I can't have at least 95% of my voice, of my best voice, I'll kick it to the curb. And I think teenage KK wouldn't have been able to handle any of that. But
Yeah.
For me, the problem was, and that didn't happen until I started singing, really, which is way late. So I could just get hammered and play just fine. So I had no consequences other than the next morning, which a bong hit would fix. Up until a certain age, which happened to be 28, and then that was a hard stop. And I was like, "Oh, this is going to cost me like 3 more whole days." Yeah, that's not going to work. But I think I'm glad for you though, because it's nice that you're in that part where you still love being on the road, because what happens to most, I won't say to most, but a lot of people at my generation before, was that when you do get over it, you don't know how to cultivate a home life at all anymore. And now, and to me, now it's that balance. It's like growing a garden with my wife and my children, and long range plans, 30-year down the road plans. And then now I'm like balancing it out. So I get on the road and I'm like, oh man, I got to get back home, because I feel like I'm withering. And then when I'm home, it's like, the wanderlust, part you want to, all right, I want to get out there and do it. But it's good. I'm glad for you that right now, because you're balanced, you don't have to worry about it taking you down. You're really lucky in that respect. And I hope it lasts a long time.
Yeah, I mean, and until I leave this planet, like I would love to be in music for the rest of my life. I
So
would
you
love
don't
that.
think you would ever like to have kids, or
I have
do
kids.
Oh, you already have them.
I have
Okay.
kids.
So let me ask you this. So how do you balance that? Because what I do now is I'm like, I don't want to be away from them for more than 2.5 weeks. And since I'm older, I can call that a lot better than I used to be.
Mhm.
So how do you,
My kids are older.
oh, so you're like done.
Yeah, like my kids, like my youngest is 16. So like, I
Wow.
mean, there's still a lot of work to be done, but like most of it,
Yeah. Yeah.
all of
You
the
can bounce.
hands-on there every step of the way, that part is already done. I had my kids, but like I didn't start pursuing music and like fully pursuing music until after I had my kids. I was like a stay-at-home mom, or not stay-at-home, but like I was going to school. When I was going to school, I was, sitting at the table with my oldest daughter, like helping her with her homework and stuff. And like, so music, at that point, like traveling and stuff like that wouldn't have been an option. The timing of it really was perfect. Like I built my family before I started pursuing music. So
I mean,
like
you look about 22. Jesus. Wow. I would never, when you said 16, I was like, no way. Like,
yeah, my so I don't know if you heard about Naomi, my oldest that passed away, but she was 21
I'm
when
so
she
sorry.
passed away. Yeah. Um yes, I worked went to school and worked at Agape, worked as a med tech, and went to school full time, and like the kids at the house, community is a big thing that
Yeah.
helps. My family, my mom, my sister, like all of them had their plans for what they wanted to do with their life, and it didn't really involve them traveling a lot. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
at this point, when I do leave town, they're with my family. So
Yeah.
it makes it really, yeah,
I
And
community
love
is.
how long are you gone for? Like, what's the longest you're gone for when you have to leave?
I did a run with Talk. I would come home. There'd be, I guess the longest I was gone was like 3 weeks.
Oh, that's great.
3 weeks.
That's great. I
Yeah.
have friends that are gone for 6 months, and I'll
Oh,
just be
really?
like, dude, how do you come back and your kids look significantly different, you know?
Yeah.
It's like a military type of analogy, you
So
know?
my teenagers, my boys, I like went off for the summer and like traveled out, and I would come back for like a couple of days and I'd be back out again. So like I would come home maybe once every 2 or 3 weeks and then right back out again. But like Jalen, like he was right here. And then when I came back, he was like right here. I was like,
Yeah.
what?
It's wild, isn't it?
Yeah.
I,
So what did they
I
think about mom's going to be a rock star and go on the road? And
They love it.
I
Jalen,
love it.
my son has this shirt, and he's taller than I am now. he was like half my size when they made Doom made this shirt with like a painting of my face, and it's his favorite shirt. He still wears it, and it looks like a crop top now. He refuses to get rid of it.
That's
He's
great.
just like, that's my mom. Like they
Oh,
come out to the shows. Now it's like my daughter that'll come out a lot.
Yeah. I've seen you post pictures with you and her, and it's like it's neat to
yeah.
see like art I feel like eh, art almost like fosters friendships between like parents and children when it's done right. She's getting to see you do these amazing things. It must be such an awesome experience for you two to share, like both on and off stage.
My kids are so cool. They just the love letters and the that when we text each other and you know they tell me in more ways than one how proud they are of me. Like I'm gonna start crying if we get there, but
Oh,
like
if we cry here, girl,
but
Yeah, it
it's
won't
all
be the
right.
yeah,
first one. Don't worry. Yeah.
they they just, Christian sent me something and he was just like, I love that you're out there and you're doing your dreams, that you're following your dreams. Like it makes me want to do that too. Like
Yeah.
Christian's in flight school now.
Oh,
Like
amazing.
he was afraid of heights when he was younger. I got my kids tickets to go see Beyonce. This is when Naomi was still here because she was obsessed with Beyonce. So I got them all tickets and we went to Atlanta to go see Beyonce. And of course, the seats were like in the rafters because, yeah, we were in the rafters. And then Christian, when we get up there, he sits down and he's just holding on to the seat and he's just leaning all the way back. He's super stiff. It's just like Jalen's like talking to him, Dad, like, because he doesn't care about Beyonce. He's like talking to him and he's like, what is your problem? And I look at him, I'm like, Christian, are you afraid of heights? He was like, mm-hmm.
Oh,
So, we left out of the, I let the girls stay seated and we just sat on the side and I just gave him my phone. I was like, forget it. We don't have to watch Beyonce. I don't want to watch Beyonce anyway. I like gave him my phone and we sat over on the side. And after that, we started walking the bridge downtown in Charleston.
oh
And
boy.
I was like, we'll walk the bridge. And
Yeah.
if when you get scared, we'll turn around. And then we just kept doing that. And then finally we got to the top of the bridge and he was like, all right, I think I'm good now. Eventually like months, and probably like a year, but like he was like, all right, I'm good now. He was like, but I don't want to walk all the way to the other side because that's too far. Can we go now?
That's
So like,
long.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Because we'd have to walk all the way back to get to the car. So and then after that, he got an offer, in school to take the program. They picked like a couple of kids in the school, and I was like, Christian, you've come a long way. I was like, why'd you choose that? And he was like, money,
I'll get over this heights thing for that kind of
money.
bread.
Yeah, yeah, I'm
I'm getting a
good.
cold sweat. I'm getting an empathetic cold sweat for him because I get that too. I get a
Oh,
little bit
dude. After the
like
Baltimore, one of our dear friends was our sound man and our road manager. He drove a lot and he would have to switch seats. He'd be like, you got to take it. I can't do bridges. And so we did that. You know, the Charleston one. I'm just thinking all the different ones we did.
Yeah,
And
my
he would
sister,
be like,
born and raised here. She doesn't like to drive
yeah,
over the bridge. She's like,
yeah.
uh,
mm-mm.
So when
I'm
that,
good.
what was it, Baltimore that just happened?
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
bridge where
Was
the
it Baltimore?
BARTs,
Yeah, yeah, it was Baltimore. It
Yeah.
was like near on the Patapsco River.
yeah, and I didn't even call Penn that day because I'm gonna talk to him about it later because I know it just freaked me. He's like, that's why. But what a great mom move for you to do that. Like, let's go walk the Charleston Bridge and
Yeah.
we'll just get a little bit farther out until that's so cool that you did
It's
that.
kind of neat too that your fears might just be like a portal to your loves eventually if you handle them. You know what I mean? Like instead of going like, "Oh, you're afraid of spiders, then let's avoid spiders."
Yeah.
Going into it and going like there's a therapy called exposure therapy that
Yeah.
does that quite a bit where it's like if you have a fear of something, look at it and go, I'm not afraid of you anymore. And it ends up becoming like those people in the veterinarians or like, researchers and pilots and
That's my
stuff like
wife.
that.
I don't even think she read exposure therapy, but she just does that. That's her Makeup is just like to face your fears. Our first trip we went to Costa Rica, and I told her, she goes, let's go zip lining. I was like, zip lining's out. I'm like super afraid of heights, like super. And she was like, because that's her nature is to like go straight into facing her fears.
Ooh.
Or in fact, if she doesn't feel a little scared,
not
actually, if
worth it.
she's not in danger now of dying like at least 3 ways doing this one thing, it's just like not that exciting to her. So I get on there, and you do that first little rope bridge when you zip line. And so if I could see through the floor, that's a deal breaker.
Yeah, that's it.
And if the floor moves, that's a deal breaker. Right? So when I went to the Needle up in Canada, I forget whether it's Montreal, Toronto, or wherever, there's a glass floor at the top, but it's not moving. So, I just like inch my way out just a little bit, and then I stand, and then I could look down. But when you're zip lining on the trees and on the rope bridges, you can see through it, and they're all moving. So I'm literally hugging the tree like this while everybody go, you guys go around me. I'm going to go last.
Yeah.
And there's like little kids going. And my wife was like, holy crap, you really are. I was like, I told you. I'm terrified.
I feel like I would have done the same thing. That's kind of where I am.
That's like with your son, like what you were saying, like I'm cool with bridges, but I remember having like balcony seats at the Capitol Theater, and I was in the very front row, and just standing up and looking over the balcony, just drop. It made me, so people, if anybody next to me had to like go to the bathroom, I had to back up and let them go between me and the not me move up and they go behind me because I'm like, way. But edges and drops are like the thing that get me for sure. Yeah.
When I first got out there, this guy shook the rope bridge as a joke.
No.
He like grabbed it and did so the whole thing went like this. And that's when my wife found out. I was like, what? But what were you going to say about your dad?
My dad would like when you said like getting over your fears, like my dad would do that. Like I remember telling him like the water, like I couldn't swim, when I was younger, obviously. And then he was just like, boop, just throw me in the water. And
he threw you in?
Me too.
Yes.
Me too.
He threw me in the water.
Amazing.
I was afraid of spiders, and we lived in Dallas, and we had tarantulas that would be around the house because we had one of the first part of the neighborhood. And like until this day, like I'm not afraid of spiders. He was just like, hold your hand out. It's fine. It's fine. He's not gonna bite you.
Oh, no.
Free range spiders. My dad, honestly, I feel like my dad wanted a boy. I'm his only child. And I think he wanted a boy.
That's great.
And so he threw me in the water. You're gonna be my boy. Spiders, snakes, just whatever you're afraid of, just like he's like, okay, here you go.
It's like you unlocked a memory for me just now. My uncles and their friends threw me into an above ground pool when I was little and then took the ladder away and then stood on all the different corners of the pool. And anytime I like went to the side, they would reach over and pick me up and throw me back into the middle. And that's where I had to kind of like, yeah, uncles. The guys.
My uncle was there when my uncle was like, I just throw her in the water, Charlie. She'd be all right.
Now
I love swimming though. I love swimming. Yeah, I drank a half a pool that day, but whatever.
Yeah.
I bleached half my brain, but that's okay.
I got thrown in the ocean.
The ocean.
What?
Yeah,
I like
mouthful of salt water.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
That's risky, man. I mean, I know a guy that didn't learn to swim because he came from that era where like black people weren't allowed at the pool and stuff. And he just never learned to do it. And he drowned in water that he could have pretty much stood up in.
Jeez.
So he was trying to get, but it just the fear took over or what really down here in Florida, like you got to teach your kids to swim. You could do it as a baby, but I would never throw like an older anything over a baby. I wouldn't just like throw them in the pool.
Well, they weren't going to let me drown. I mean, they were right there,
Yeah. That's what my dad and my uncle said. Oh, we're not going to.
Yeah, they're right there. It would have been okay. Yeah.
Well, one good gulp if you stay under and a
Well,
couple of big gulps of
we
water.
made it.
It's
You ever had a
over.
mouthful of salt water?
Oh
It's
yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yep.
That's one of the things that I love about you is like, there's some people, like, to me, joy is the thing. Like, if you're in pain, great. Like, I get it. It all should be there.
hmm
But I can watch certain people, like I can watch you with the nose with the sound off. And you can go look at that like, man, we got to get the sound on. Because you can tell that, like, what are you up? What are you doing? Like, okay, if it's your makeup, if you're truly like the telephone pole, all right, every God makes all kinds. But I love that about you, that because I feel it's the same thing. It's like, I don't know if I'm gonna get hit by a car later on tonight, you know? So it's all out there right now. Like, this, let's say this is the last time, right? You know, it's I thank you for that, because that's what I want people to see is joy. And but
I
on the
see
other,
it, feel
on the,
it. It
yeah,
was,
on the other side of that though, I do want to talk for a minute about when your daughter passed, because I know, you know, trauma releases a lot of people's superpowers. It's a heavy price to pay, but it's like almost like an equation, you know, if it doesn't take you down yourself. Um, how did it change your writing? Do you think it made you even more intentional? Because I feel like you're probably that way anyway, like leaving it all in the ring anyway. Like, how did that affect moving forward?
there was an experience that happened when I was on the boat, and from what I heard, it's when she passed. Um,
Mm,
you know how they do the jams on the side of the boat? Like it's not like a stage, they're just out there playing. I was out there and I started singing something, and I remember looking at everyone and like tears pouring out of my face, and I
mm,
just kept singing, "Look at how strong we are," and I just touching
mm.
people, just put my hand like right there. Look how strong we are, and that was the moment I believe when she passed, and like that night was rough for me. There was just a lot of emotion pouring out, and what I found is since she passed, there's been like an overwhelming amount of emotion that pours out of me, and I kind of have to select which one to take, because a part of
Yeah,
me is very grateful that I got to know this human being. She was
yeah,
amazing, and she wasn't just a reflection of who I am. There was something about her that was different, that I could see. And so all of those feelings are extremely heavy now. And
yeah,
I love that my community is strong enough for me to be able to come into my room and just stay in here and be quiet, or just play whatever music, or just be in my space, because it gives me a chance to simmer it down, and then I'm like, okay, I'm gonna pick this. This one
yeah,
feels the closest. If it's pain, so be it.
yes,
If it's joy, remembering, I have so many videos and pictures and things, because I'm always whipping out my phone when I'm around my kids, because they're hilarious.
Yeah.
So like I just pick those moments. I feel like it was harder to do, because when I begin to write, if it is about the pain, it's difficult. You
yeah,
know, like I said, it's so noisy now, since she's passed. So it's my focus here recently has been figure out ways to bring it in, and then select one, and then focus on that.
yeah,
Because aside from that, like if that happens, then I'll just get overwhelmed, and then I'll go out and go drinking. And like,
yeah,
so
yeah.
Yeah.
you just it got really noisy. So it made it harder to write. Um,
Mm-hmm.
it just it made it harder to focus on one thing. So that's been my that's been my challenge, since then, to just focus on one thing. I wrote a song about her, or about us, with Talk.
Yeah.
And it's the first, I mean, well, After Hours is also, you know, it's also about her. Um, but this was before she passed. I didn't want the song to be sad, because I was like, that's going to be too much for me. So
Yeah.
in that moment, I picked the joy, and then I
Yeah.
wrote about it. And I was like, well, this song, peps me up, and it makes me think of the good things, the way that
Yeah.
she would persevere, the way that she would, do her thing, and challenge herself. Um, but yeah, since she left, it's been like, or since she moved on, it's noisy in here.
Yeah. I
Um,
love that image that you say, because I never thought of it that way, but that is a really good uh, image of it. Noisy and quieting that noise. And I mean, you're doing magic when you do that. I realize this from, I have really easy access to my pain, and I have to move it. It comes natural for me to move it. It's hard, but when I do move it, it other people connect with it, and then theirs moves, and then now we're all like, and when it moves, that's the word transmute. That's when you're doing alchemy, and that's magic. That's when, because if you don't, man, it'll a tumor will build, or something. You know what I mean? It leads to death. Not you have to. It's gotta move out. So that's a great. I love what you're saying about that, and I'm glad that we both have music to do that. You know, like you could at some later point you might pick the pain, but you could pick the joy. You know, and that's really beautiful. That's really beautiful.
yeah, sometimes you don't, like, sometimes I feel like I don't have a choice. Like, I'll pick the pain and I'll move through it instead of just kind of running from it.
Yeah,
Because yeah, you're right. If you hold on to that and you don't release it the right way, if you don't move through it, if you don't allow yourself to feel that, you can get sick. You can
yeah,
get
Well,
sick.
deadly ill.
and you
De-
know
Yeah.
what else you're doing too, and even probably unintentionally or inadvertently, or you don't know whose ears your music reaches, right? And who's going through something similar, and learning from you and how you're handling it, how they could better handle it, and how to pick and choose. Oteil said superpowers, right? I think that's yours right now, is the fact that
Mhm.
you can pick and choose and focus on the positive. You wanted to make a song that cheers you up. You have no idea who's going to hear that song when they need it, right? When they absolutely need it. I'm not a musician, I'm a comic, but music is the most important thing in my life. And it's because of songs that, like, you're describing, that were written out of necessity, that they find who needs to hear it out of necessity.
Yeah, there's that mystical part where that takes place, because some people don't have the power to
No,
choose the joyful part, to go back and look
most
at the
people don't.
videos and the pictures. Or if they do, then it just makes them more sad. It doesn't like bring them the joy. And I know a guy here whose daughter died when she was 8 of cancer, and she was still alive when we met. He owns a club here. And so Nigel was about 5 at the time. And that was the first time and then when she died, that was the first time I had to really consider, like, if something happened to Nigel or Kavi, like, what? And that's the worst. You can't even imagine. Like, I just have to banish the thought, because when I go, it's like the Dementors in Harry Potter, where it just, whew, but watching him walk through that and how he's moved forward, and talking to you now, like and I think about how many happy memories that we have made with Nigel and Kavi. Like, God forbid anything happened to him, but man, we are doing it. Like, it just makes you live. I say, people are like, how are you so happy all the time? I'm like, well, I'm not if the drummer sucks, and you won't see me, but it's a decision, because I'm like, it's not just a feeling, it's a decision. Like, we have to get the most out of this. Me and Mike always have this thing about, we live like we have 6 months. We're going to make a bumper sticker or something, because you don't know. You may have less than that. So, and when I see you, Kanika, I'm like, man, she is, you're a goddess. You're a total goddess. And I'm so glad that for everything, just that didn't just take you down. And you're transmuting that and being able to quiet that noise and give people so much joy. When I think about, you're sitting there talking about watching me on Jam Cruise, I'm like, man, yeah, I think you're the epitome of what you described about me. I just think you're a goddess. So thank you for being so great, and being you, and being bold and beautiful, and all of it, man. Thank you so much.
I come from a large collection of very strong Black women.
Yeah.
My mom being one of those. And like, I just remember, my mom talked to me before I went on Jam Cruise, and she was like, I want you to keep going, and I want you to keep working. That's one thing I noticed about the women in our family. Like, no matter what we were going through, you keep moving. If that's how you feel, that's how you feel. But like, just don't stop moving. And, she encouraged me to keep going. She was like, go on that cruise. She was like, you're here, you're going to be deep in sorrow. You've put in the time. You need to keep going. Because if you slow down, you're going to stop.
Yeah.
She's like, keep going. So, I think about the women in my family when I push on, and they're the ones that taught me how to be a goddess. They taught me how to be brave and put beads on my face if you want to, and if you need alone time, you take alone time, and
Yeah.
I appreciate you talking about that too. I've got off Instagram, or I'm like, go away from it. I try to do less of it. But I remember when you came on, I always will stop and listen to what you have to say, And I really appreciate you sharing just whatever your mental health thing is at time, whatever. I think nobody used to do that. Well, we didn't have social media, but everybody would be so secret about it, and they would drown it in drugs and drink and sex and whatever. And a couple of times I saw you just like, it was really cool. You were going like no makeup and just like, here's what I'm feeling right now, man. And it was really beautiful. So thank you for that too, because it really does help. And I know you come from that tradition of ministering to other people, but a lot of people don't, and it really does minister to them a lot. I mean, even if I'm not going through something, when I hear you share like that, it helps, man, because we've all been through that stuff. And, it just makes a big difference. So thank you for doing that. And you're awesome. We don't want to keep it. Oh, it's 12:12. Bang, that's my magic number.
Hey.
Yeah.
You know what I love about doing this and chatting with people is getting to know the little things about the people I really like, appreciate and love, and just picturing you rocking out to The Simpsons Sings the Blues makes me so happy. You went from a 10 to a 12. I think you're amazing. But yeah, thanks so much for spending time with us today.
Oh, thank you. This was a pleasure. I'm like I said, I'm introverted, so it's always like a weird thing for me to, sit in front of someone and share who I am. But this has been an absolute pleasure. I really appreciate this.
Come
Yeah.
back anytime. We'd love to have you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we love to create that space for people to do that. So thank
Yes.
Thank you.
At
Thank
least
you.
you're
Well
in your
done.
room where you would hide out.
Yeah, you don't have to
You
be
can do
here.
it from your
Yeah.
happy place.
I was like, where am I gonna set up? I'm like, right here. This is it.
Absolutely. Well, we
Thank you
love
so much. We'll see you soon.
Yes.
Bye bye.